Hello everybody, it's your boy, Robert Dinnerroll here, and today we are going to be reviewing Disney's Avengers Infinity War, the movie you've all heard of and are probably hyping up. This movie was directed by the Russo brothers. They directed one good Marvel movie and directed one good clusterfuck. This movie is about Thanos trying to get the Infinity Stones so he can destroy the world, or the universe, or whatever. And that's the simple plot. I'm gonna try my best not to give away spoilers in this movie review. I might give away, like, little hints, but that's basically it. I don't want to give away anything, so that is why I've come up with the idea to do a spoiler review. So, I will do a spoiler review in the future, but it's just me talking about Avengers Infinity War right now, spoiler free. So let's talk about Avengers Infinity War. I was not hyping up this movie. The trailers are misleading, and I didn't really like the trailers. It just looked like a really bad movie. Just all this CGI everywhere. And another thing I was concerned about is, how are they gonna fit all this shit in the one movie? How are they gonna do that? Thankfully, the Russo brothers pulled it off. This movie is good. It's not great. It's not fantastic, but it is one of the better Marvel movies. And that's really not saying much, because Marvel sucks ass at making movies. They know how to make money, but they don't know how to make movies. But yeah, I had a blast with Infinity War. There are some jarring flaws, but I'll get to those later. I want to talk about my positives first before we get into any negatives. The direction in this movie is way better than Winter Soldier and Civil War. Maybe it was done a little bit worse. I'll have to see it again, but I don't know. The direction was just kind of decent. It was very intense direction, you know, shaky cam, handheld. And this is what I love about the Russo brothers. They know how to direct action. And yeah, there's very gratifying action scenes in this movie, and they know how to do it right. However, it's just sometimes their direction during these action scenes are boring and not fun to watch it sometimes. But those are just like nitpicks. Like, I still like the action, and I still like the direction. Speaking of action, I did like the action, although I have one more problem. Action is so big, you don't even care anymore. These are just characters that are fighting nothing. They're fighting nothing. And I couldn't tell who was who. I couldn't tell if people were actually there. That's the biggest problem with this movie, is that during the action, I can't tell if those are actual actors there. When you see in the trailers, when you see Doctor Strange, sometimes that doesn't even look like Benedict Cumberbatch. At times it looks like a special effect. And so I really worried, but I was like, whatever. Action is still fine. It's just, you know, I can't tell what the hell's going on. For script, it doesn't really have one. It just follows this structureless act. It can't follow the structure, because there's so much stuff in this movie that it can't. And you know what? I think that's fine. This movie doesn't need a script. All it needs is dialogue and just little points in the script where it says action with an exclamation mark. That's all this movie needed. So yeah, the script, out of my hands. There's no script here. It's structureless the whole way through, and I think that's fine. Characters get no development. That's probably because we follow these characters for like so long throughout this entire cinematic universe that they really need no development, because like maybe this character got like 3 movies of development. Maybe this group of people got like 2 movies of development, you know, like we don't really need development. This movie is more about Thanos, and I just gotta say, if you thought Eric Killmonger was the best Marvel villain, or Loki was the best Marvel villain, take that thought out of your head, because Thanos is the best Marvel villain ever. He is a threat. He's threatening. Josh Brolin plays him like fantastically. Josh Brolin is great in this movie. Thanos just steals every scene that he's in. He is basically the main character. And I just loved how he was portrayed, and how he was, like, just a menacing threat. This is what I need in villains. And when you take that shell off of Thanos, you realize that there's real emotion, and you feel for this guy. You feel for this guy that is a murderer and a psychopath, but he has feelings. He feels deep down inside, and that was one of the better parts of his character. So, when these characters see Thanos with the glove, all the stones in it, and he's just tearing shit up, they all are like, we don't know what to do, so, we'll just wing it. That's what makes him such a great villain. I'm gonna get into my problems with this movie now. Music was a problem for me. There are a lot of times where the music is louder than the actors. There's a lot of times where the music is just bombarding, just so flat and plain. Symphonic sounds that remind me a lot of Star Wars. Okay, look, if you replaced Star Wars The Last Jedi score with this score, I don't think you could tell the two apart. Even though the balancing act that the Russo brothers were able to pull off was done fantastically, I think the pacing sucks. 2.5 hours of just fighting heroes, and I like that. I think it should have been 2 hours and 20 minutes of just action. But there's moments in between the action where characters are just talking to each other, although it's entertaining to see, and you're like, oh, I like that combo, see those two characters. It's boring, and it shouldn't be, because these characters are interacting with each other, and they're finally meeting each other, and they're all getting together, and they're like, oh, I see that combo. Yet, it's like watching rocks talk to each other. Boring, and I think the pacing should have been way more faster. It should have been more fast-paced for a movie of this time. And, okay, it should have taken its time, but try not to be boring in Avengers 4, please. I didn't like the subplot with Thor, Rocket Raccoon, and Groot. It just felt like filler. Like, we gotta add more runtime. What are we gonna do with this character? Oh, let's put him with Rocket and Groot. Okay, whatever. Sure. Okay, fine. All in all, I enjoyed Infinity War. It's a good movie. There's a lot of flaws with it. Could have been shorter. Could have been a better movie. But, hey, what is? I really have to commend Disney for this movie. They actually did some things that I did not expect. There's a lot of twists and turns in this movie that actually was kind of surprising. And when this movie ended, I just left that theater with a big-ass smirk on my face, because Disney was doing something out of their range, and I think it was done perfectly. The ending to this movie, I don't want to spoil it, I'll talk about it in my spoiler review, is fantastic. I think I'm going to give this movie a 6 out of 10. That is still a positive rating, but, if I see it again, maybe I'll bump it up to a 7, but that's not very likely because of the problems with it. But yeah.